Some of y'all might have never heard of NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. And that does have something to do with all of this, and you guys can look it up, read for yourself, and come to your own conclusions. I'm not going to get into it. We'll get into the important part, the war against the poor. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. All of you need to look this up, every single one of you. Do not go in unprepared. Know what your rights are, and know what the rights of your families and friends are. One thing that I realized through all of this is that there's a bunch of at-risk adults in the United States on the streets who have been lied to their entire lives about what's legal and what ain't. Who are we being lied to by? Judges, lawyers, police officers. Now, all of you know, if you've ever been to a court date, that we don't get Hollywood court like Johnny friggin' Depp. It just doesn't happen. Our evidence somehow never makes it. Somehow, all of that stuff that Johnny Depp's allowed to do and Johnny Cochran was allowed to do. Man, you guys remember that guy? Most of you don't. Most of you younger folks got no idea who the juice even is. So we'll skip that one for now. Well, just suffice to say that Johnny Cochran is a famous lawyer. And his clients included some pretty seriously fucked up murderers. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need food, water, and shelter. By controlling all aspects of food, water, and shelter, the United States government gets to keep you in check and treat you as property, which is fine because you are property. You've allowed this. You made the choice to do nothing. You deserve it. You deserve to be possessions of the United States government. However, those on the streets are the only people fighting for our rights. They're the only ones who comprise components of every political and socioeconomic class. We have every gender. We have to say every gender instead of both genders now, don't we? Well, I'm doing my best to try to be compliant and inclusive. However, the LGBT community is not inclusive. God, my back is killing me. Now, with the LGBT community not being inclusive of any of the rest of us, with the KKK not being inclusive of any of the rest of us, with BLM not being inclusive of any of the rest of us, really the only people whose rights you can fight for are the homeless. One thing you missed out on, though, is that for the last 7 years I've been explaining to you, if you look the other way and you let it happen to me, it becomes case law and they can do it to you. I already told you that several of the situations that I've been in have made it to case law. They made it legal to do some pretty immoral and illegal things. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the very bottom rung of the ladder. It's actually written out as a pyramid. Do you know why? It is written out as a pyramid so that it kind of points out that some things are more important than others. The right to breed is important, but it's not on the bottom rung. The bottom rung is the part that supports everything. Food, water, and shelter. It's hard to think about anything but food when you're hungry. It's hard to think about anything but water when you're thirsty. It's hard to think about anything but shelter when you're freezing. Those at the bottom Not the very bottom, but those at the bottom. Those are the ones that it's easiest to deprive of resources due to public opinion. Very, very carefully crafted public opinion. And those of you who don't get public opinion or what it means, it's true democracy. No, it's not. It's mob law. What's the difference between mob law and democracy? In a democracy, you have an informed public. That means the people know what the hell they're voting on. They're not told to vote, told what's in the bill or in the whatever the hell they want to pass. We've got a lot of rich people who are making decisions for a lot of us who have never been rich. They've never been poor. What are they doing? What kind of decisions are they making for us? There's about 750,000 police officers in the United States. There's almost 600,000 homeless people, which means that the police outnumber us by a lot. They've got a technological advantage. They have for certainly got an advantage in firearms. And as much as people hate the police, they hate the homeless more. Which means that no matter what, you've always got to go to. Also, those people on the streets are constantly on the search for food, water, and shelter. They can't defend themselves. They can't even take care of themselves. They're constantly running around to all the places that they're told, if you go here, it'll help you. If you go there, it'll help you. Hey, you have to go here. You have to go there. For those of you got family and friends to help shadow the burden, so to speak. Yeah, maybe your parents can't take you to all of your hospital meetings or all of your therapy appointments or whatever the hell they set you up with. But someone can. In most of these situations, you just need somebody there so that you're taken seriously when you go in. And I'm not taken seriously when I go in. You know, I almost had it to the point, almost, before Natalie died, where I didn't have to be a dickhead. Or I didn't have to scream at the top of my lungs, hey, why do I have to work harder than everybody else to have nothing? Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. While you think you're willing to sacrifice your life in a foreign land for this country, you get over there and you just wish you were home. You only hate the people that you hate because you're told to hate them. We've had many people who came back from wars, like, of course, the war with Iraq. There was a female soldier. She was taken into Iraqi custody, and she was treated horribly. We've seen this. We've seen this all over the news, how horribly she was treated. Then she came home and she spoke up. She was like, no, I was treated very well, actually. Taken to a hospital, matter of fact, where I was treated extremely well. That was the first Iraqi war. The homeless are the least likely population to be armed, bar none, in the United States. A felon is more likely to have a firearm than a homeless person. I want you to think about that. A felon is more likely to have a firearm than a homeless person. It's dangerous for us to have firearms. It's dangerous to keep that in your backpack. It's dangerous to pull it out and try to use it on somebody. It's dangerous because we're homeless and because our lifestyle does not allow for us to carefully keep and maintain such precious objects. And I do mean precious objects. While many of you are hateful of all these shootings, all of these nightclub shootings, keep in mind that you are never going to get rid of the gun. It's not possible. The more guns you take away, take guns away from the populace, the more you make them targets for criminals. When criminals don't have to worry that their victims have firearms, they're a lot more brazen. You can see this between the police and the homeless. People in houses kill the homeless at a rate of 2 to 1. That means for every one person in a house who's killed by a homeless person, there's 2 homeless people killed by somebody in a house. And of course, it's medically justified. If you have a 9-year-old girl playing in the bushes, playing hide and seek, and a grown man, as you guys probably saw in the news, and a grown man walks up and blows her head off, that's newsworthy, isn't it? If a homeless man is sleeping under a bush and somebody walks up and blows his head off, who fucking cares? How many homeless people are found with gunshot wounds to the head? Quite a few. How many of our missing loved ones that were homeless, that the police always somehow can't investigate shit? They can investigate for you in houses, but us out here on the streets, when our friends disappear, nothing. How many bodies did they claim to have found between looking for Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie? Over a dozen bodies. And have they released the names or identities of any of them? When it comes to people going missing, the homeless society, these are all people in desperate need. All of them fighting for the bottom rung of Maslow's hierarchy of need. Always required to perform 2 levels up. Expected to perform as if we are able to have or hold interpersonal relationships. Food, water, and shelter. They keep us struggling by preventing us from having them. By making us work harder to get food, water, and shelter as a homeless person than as if you were in a house. We force people who are too disabled to take care of themselves. To take care of themselves because the supports that are supposed to be there aren't. There's too much profit to be had in the term mentally ill and the term transient. What they try to do in that is infer things based on those words as to and of your nature as a human being. If you're homeless, you must be a thief. If you're homeless, you must be a child molester. If you're homeless, you must be a rapist. If you are homeless, you must have chose this. Homeless people All of us are really rich in mansions out there flying our signs. We do that and we make $1 million a day flying our signs. We all have a Maserati drop top or a Corvette convertible that we get into after our shift of flying a sign, taking you suckers for all your money. This is what we have projected on us. You say that about a black person, you're racist. You say that about a man or a woman or a Mexican or an American or, well, just take your pick. You can pick a group. Democratia. People power. How many of you understand the power of the demos? Then we're going to get Christians who want to go, oh my God, Demos is close to demon. He must be talking about demons. Well, that's a matter of perspective. Are people demonic? No, people are needy. When you say needy, you say it as an insult. You need food, water, and shelter, stupid. That's not an insult. The insult, the real slap to the face, an injustice, is that homeless people aren't allowed a place. All of the land is owned. There does need to be a land cap. Allowing so few people to hoard so much and to ask so much of the rest of us for so little return. Dwindling returns. That's the power of a republic. Dwindling returns. The American people are not a democracy. They are a mob. They are an unorganized and disgusting mess as far as any sort of people power. The law is written a certain way, but it's also twisted and manipulated and used however people want. Then we've got public officials that, rather than looking into what the hell they're voting on, they're just going, oh, well, most of the people in a voting community. Most black people are not in a voting community. Their words don't matter. Most homeless are not in a voting community. Their words don't matter. You get to hear from so many people on my channel talking about how afraid they are of the police. These are people in houses. Seven years ago, I was speaking up about how this happens to the homeless. Nearly exclusively to the homeless. Whole scale. That's not to say the rest of y'all poor people aren't stuck in it and dragged down. Look how long it takes for you to get a court date when you're poor. Look how high they set your bail. Yeah, sure, they set some rich person's bail way higher, but that rich person doesn't have to give up literally everything they have to pay that bail. They have the ability to hire a real lawyer. They have the money to buy rights. You have to buy the right to be heard by the police, by anyone in the federal government. If you have to buy a right, it is not a right. It is a privilege. Many of y'all say, oh, well, you aren't owed anything. That is wrong. That is wrong. We have a social contract. Matter of fact, here in the United States, we have 3 social contracts. Written social contracts. And the Constitution is only one of them. The second social contract is our Bill of Rights. Take a look at that and how important voting is made to be on there in a republic. In a republic, your vote doesn't count. How your representative votes counts. Whether or not you are educated on the issue or even capable of becoming educated on the issue. Horribly mismanaged and lopsided. Basically, people have, instead of the ability to look at the laws themselves and take the time to think it out, they have just enough time to hear 5 minutes of debate between 2 people who are both rich, never been poor, are taking donations in the millions of dollars, and here we are having to decide in a 5-minute debate which one we agree with, or having to listen to somebody else who watched the debate. And here we are. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, food, water, and shelter. We're all bickering over food, water, and shelter and the expenses of food, water, and shelter. Each one of us kicking the hell out of the person lower down on the ladder. Each one of us telling those people who are trying so hard for their basic needs through injuries, through harm, through financial disdain. We are not a democracy, we're a republic. Nearly all republics are based on money. The United States is not the first capitalist nation. Not by a long shot. Rome was capitalist. There is no aspect of Roman life that was not capitalist. The problem with a capitalist society, as we've seen, is its trickle-down economics. All of us at the bottom are fighting for crumbs. The United States government cares less and less about you the less you have. The people most likely to be poor are the working class. You know what that means, right? It means they actually work for a living. Don't tell me to man up. I cut steel and fucking lumped heavy lumber. Barely made enough to make ends meet, and most of the time I didn't make enough to make ends meet. Not even in Chapel, Nebraska, was as inexpensive as it was in the 90s. Not even then could I make it meet. That's because, in addition to food, water, and shelter, here in the United States, we require you to have money to purchase certain things that are required for you to be allowed to get food, water, and shelter taken care of through meaningful or gainful employment. Here's what I mean. You turn 18, you're in the system. It's 1998. You just turned 18. You're in the system. You get dropped off because you're 18 now. You don't have an ID, you don't have a driver's license, you don't have a birth certificate, you don't have any of the identification that you need in order to get a job or apply for a job, and you're told to run around in circles. You're told, hey, you know what? You'd be able to afford the ID if you went and got a job. Well, thank you very much, asshole. So you do basic labor. People tell you, oh, well, I'll help you. I'll help you to get your ID. Paulie Olson helped me get my ID. She lied on the paperwork, said she'd known me for 10 years or longer. Then again, I went to school with her daughter. One of her daughters. The one who is now the chapel clerk, or treasurer, I believe. No, Mr. Fornander was the treasurer. He might have retired. None of their names matter. What matters is the situations. The situation where instead of it being a democracy, instead of the people being educated, we've got people in power who know that they can just slander your name, walk right over the law. Inflation. Inflation is the rising cost to the working class for the maintenance of, well, obviously not what we need, but what rich people want. You look at Boulder, Colorado. Does the money for the homeless go to actually helping the homeless? No, it goes to paying services to deny us and send us back next week. So we've got a bunch of money being spent to medicate people and to send them to therapy. Then that creates a need for those medications. And it also creates people who are addicted to those medications. And when they cut off those medications, those addicts are not the people they used to be. They're addicts now. All of the worst predators in your lives, where do they go? While you're busy with the petty squabbles of blaming men and blaming women, I make sure that I get on and I blame both men and women. I make sure that I blame both blacks and whites. I make sure I blame both Americans and Mexicans, Christians and Muslims. I blame every group. I've seen how the homeless society is capable of working, running, functioning, and exploring. Catfish Camp. I know that title sounds weird to you. But Catfish Camp, that was making sure that our food, water, and shelter was taken care of. The homeless have something called a kitchen camp. These RVers, they're not us. They're not us. These RV camps, these aren't who we are. We're not a filthy camp. You just care about looks. You're not an informed public. You let rich people dictate every aspect of your life, tell you what to think and what to feel and who's allowed to be where. And the homeless are not allowed to be anywhere. It is illegal for us to be anywhere in the United States. And don't try that, oh, you go to a homeless shelter thing. No, we can't. Boulder County, Colorado, there's over 4,800 homeless people. There's 122 beds, and over half of them are for transitional housing. So, you might want to rethink that. Also, we are targeted heavily by the police. 96% of those killed by police every year are men. In 2019, 49% of those killed by police were homeless, 51% disabled. The majority of the people out on the streets are disabled, disenfranchised. What did they ever get out of it? Over 80% of us out here were in foster care growing up. What did we get? We got kicked. Instead of kisses, we get kicked. It's a hard knock life. You got people like me who are very street savvy. We're also very book savvy. I'm a friggin' anomaly. No, I'm not. You have no idea the incredible minds that I have met out here on the streets. Some of them who never stood a chance. Natalie Bollinger never stood a chance. I never stood a chance. Not as children, anyway. As adults, at least she had a chance, an opportunity. She had something that many people out here on the streets don't have. Family. Or at least someone who cared. But as I look at Natalie's life and the things that she put forth, they try to make it look happy in their family portraits, don't they? You try to take pictures of only the happy moments and only show them. That's what's expected. Well, that just makes everybody stupid. We're all trying to pretend that our lives are better than they are. That's what the American people have been taught. We need to lie to each other about how good we're doing. We got to one-up the Joneses. You know what's better than stopping the predators is showing them up. No, it's not. It's not better. Not, ha ha, look at me, look at me. Ha ha, I'm right and you're wrong. You see how I give that shit back to people. I know it's wrong when I do it. I know it's hypocritical. I also know that the people who gave me advice had no fucking clue what was coming out of their mouth. They had no clue what was going on. They didn't want to listen. They wanted to assume. And the lower down somebody is on the social ladder, the more you assume about them, and the more you infer about their nature. Oh, look, this guy has a trespassing on his record. Obviously, he must be a thief. No, he was fucking sleeping, asshole. He didn't have any land to sleep on of his own. Woke up one morning with a big friggin' light right in his face. Sir, you're being cited for urban camping and trespassing on public land. What a joke. That's why Benjamin Harvey ended up dead. He had two choices. Two, because you have to sleep. Use a blanket and end up with the urban camping and the trespassing, or no blanket and it's just trespassing. But it's still trespassing. For years and years, that was used to keep us down. The police would use any excuse to deprive us of the simplest of resources, like the ability to charge our phone. We had to go running around all over Boulder to try to find a business that would let us go in there and sit long enough to charge our stuff on whatever amount of change that we had. You can't panhandle inside of the building. You got to go outside to do that, so you're not able to make enough money to make ends meet. If you're trying to get up and out and you have to panhandle for it, you got to fly a sign for it. You might be there a while. You might be there all day, matter of fact. Women out on the streets make about 15 times the amount of money that men do. 15 times. That's a lot. But it also depends on the woman. Natalie Bollinger, if she was out there flying a sign, she would have more people inviting her home than she would having people give her money. But she'd still have people give her a lot of money. She never had to do that, though. Natalie Bollinger had every opportunity that I didn't. A lot of y'all, you pretend that I had opportunities that weren't opportunities. You telling me to do something doesn't make it an opportunity. You trying to force me to do what you want just so you can throw shit in my face. Like there's a woman named Victoria. Now this lady is a shitty fucking parent. Abandoned her own kids. She lived in Las Vegas. Now I was living in Chapel and I was doing all right, but people just kept taking advantage of me. I just needed a little bit of help calling a couple of places so that I get the services I was supposed to. So that people couldn't offer me Maslow's hierarchy of needs and then demand more from it than I was capable of giving. You know how much it sucks to go to work every day, and after work you're stuck living in someone's garage, middle of the heat of the summer, or you're stuck living in Gary Jepson's weight room, or living in Jason Jepson's garage, or a trailer out back of Brenda Dickinson's, or a horse trailer. Each one of those efforts and attempts to better my life, but also each one of those places I got to deal with somebody who is constantly negative at me. Let me tell you about Mary Jepson. She was always negative at me. Always. But she's a good woman. She doesn't go out ripping people off. She doesn't go out taking advantage of people. She's straightforward, but she's also one of those people who's going to make it a snide to the side comment. It's one of the things I like the best about her. Right or wrong, at least she says it. She also cooked. She cooked for me. Doesn't that make it selfish, saying it's for me? Sometimes it was just for me. Schwartz, you better eat. You better eat. Yeah, she'd make those snide comments, but she made sure I ate. She says, I'm not going to listen to you complaining you're tired. You need to eat. She cooked me up a hamburger, or a grilled cheese sandwich. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. The thing is that if you feed us every day instead of helping us to take care of ourselves, helping us to get what it is that we need to take care of ourselves, so you don't have to cook for us. But the more I stayed in people's garages, because I'd get ripped off having roommates. I'm easy to rip off. I'm easy to take advantage of. Then when I'm in people's garages and I'm staying there, I'm subservient to their form of democracy in their household, which is autocratic dictatorship. their land, the laws favor them. A lot of people, they want to justify cruelty against the homeless by saying, oh, they don't work, they don't pay taxes, they shouldn't have the right to vote, they shouldn't have an opinion. A lot of people get insulted when they see a homeless person doing something fun. We're trying to preserve our sanity from your cruelty. Allow us a few minutes of fun. There's a lot of people in houses who are making the same complaints that I was making 6 years ago. Their Maslow's hierarchy of needs is no longer in effect. You get to hear all these people talking about how they can't do shit because they're broke. They're in a constant state of panic. They're in a constant state of running around. And while they don't like it when somebody shoves a sandwich in their face, they're still gonna fucking eat it because they're hungry. In Boulder, Colorado, there was some CU students ran around giving all the homeless people food. They only did it once. They had a little red radio flyer wagon and everything. Came around with these sack lunches. Everybody who ate them sack lunches got sick. I recovered underneath a bush. That wasn't pleasant, and I was very glad that there was a local place to shit. But it wasn't just bad food, it was really bad food. Like, I don't know, I want to say a dozen or so homeless people were telling me at that point in time, hey, you know, there was this in my system. This is what they put in our food. I tried to say, hey, we need to turn it in, but nobody's going to care. The police don't care. The public doesn't care. We don't matter. When our Maslow's hierarchy of needs is not met, we do desperate things for food, water, and shelter. Food, water, shelter. Squatting is a byproduct of ripping people off and victimizing the victims until they have nothing. %96 of those killed by police are men. 22% are black. 24% last year were black. 49% in 2019 were homeless. 60% last year were homeless. The number of people killed by police that are mentally ill stands at 51%. Now, we hear all of these different groups fighting for just their rights. Those are special rights. Those are selfish rights. People don't want to listen to you because you're only about you. You're not about us. You're not about we the people. You're about just your group. You're about just your group to the point that many of your members feel insulted when a victim of a different group comes forward about being harmed. When a member of BLM is throwing artillery shells at homeless people, I mean the ones that you get for 4th of July, not the ones you get in the military. How are we to take that? How are we to reinterpret it? The police, they know they can misuse the media. They know they can misuse the court system. They also know that nobody cares about the homeless. That's why we are the most victimized. I want you to put this in perspective. 0.18% of our population is homeless. 0.18% of our population Now, those 0.18% of the population account for, well, over 80% of them were in foster care growing up. The jails and prisons, over 80% homeless locked up. The majority of those in the jails and prisons were homeless when arrested. If the police killed the homeless at the same rate per their population as they do now, but the population, instead of being 600,000, was 60 million, same as it is with black folks or disabled folks, 60 million. The homeless would account for over 99% of those killed by the police every year. Over 48,000 people killed every year. Thank goodness the homeless don't have a population size of 60 million, right? Well, that's a matter of perspective. How many of you in houses who got to retirement age now have your children and grandchildren living with you? You're the only reason they're not homeless. You're going back to work. You're working at Safeway now, or Grocery Outlet, or Winco Foods. Or you're working at Food Lion, or 7-Eleven. You're working at Walmart or Wendy's. You're trying to support a bunch of people. A bunch of homeless people. They're only not homeless because you're going back to work. Meanwhile, they're contributing too, and thank goodness, because you'd lose everything if they weren't contributing. And yet all of your resources are eaten up, running around in circles to be denied by everybody for anything because you're broke. This government that is supposed to help you and have this safety net to protect your loved ones, to protect your son who's schizophrenic, to protect your daughter who's autistic. They're supposed to protect those people, and they don't. And you're forced to give up your time and your labor for that, because these people are supposed to help. But then you got to come up with $36 an hour because your child has special needs and places can charge a lot extra for it. But also, are they going to find out about your kid's quirks? Are they going to find out that the taste of peanut butter or the text of peanut butter is going to make your kid puke? Or are they going to punish your kid for puking? When your kid is easy to bully and berate and beat down, and you're the kind of parent who says, well, deal with it yourself. You assume your kid must be wrong because, well, you were wrong when you were a kid because you were a dick. So you leave no leeway for the fact that your kids can be better than you. A lot of y'all don't let your kids go out and have free reign. That sucks. A lot of y'all are so completely paranoid, you don't know what kind of parents you are. You can't figure out what kind of parents you are because you're too paranoid to let your kids out of the house to make mistakes. You can't let your kid out of the house to make mistakes. You're too paranoid that somebody's going to chop them up into little pieces. You're too paranoid that the police are going to shoot them in the back. You're too paranoid that some hobo's going to yank them into the bushes and rape them. Just so you know, less than 1 in 1,000 rapes are committed by a stranger. So this whole fear that every hobo out there is going to rape you, that is an met fear. It's not met. $999 of you who are raped out of 1,000 are raped by someone you know. When you want to be paranoid that every hobo is out there to chop up your kid, eat your kid, rape your kid, beat your kid, your mother is the most likely person to beat on you. Your father is the most likely person to rape you. Overwhelmingly. When it comes to violent deaths against children, non-natural deaths, that would be like murder, manslaughter, starving your child to death. There's different things that are taken into account. Starving your child to death isn't considered a violent death. Drowning your child is not considered a violent death. Poisoning your child is not considered a violent death. Those are 3 ways that men usually don't kill their children, but women do. When we find out about the statistics, 31% of the children killed in the United States are killed by the mother, violently. 31% are killed by the father, violently. That's 62%. That's over 50%. That means that your parents are more likely to fucking kill you than anyone else in the entire world. Your parents are more likely to kill you. And that doesn't take into account the number of children who starve to death due to neglect. It doesn't count the children who are poisoned to death. It doesn't count the children who are drowned. We know that statistically, mothers are more likely to get physically violent with their children. And why is that? It's because we teach women violence is okay for them. We teach women that it is okay for girls to hit boys. We teach boys it's never okay to hit a girl. It's never okay to hit a girl. Well, you go ahead and say that, but when she's friggin' hitting you in the face and starts reaching for a baseball bat, you better fucking do something. Do not just take it. Only times I ever saw a man knock out a woman, ever, my entire life. She was trying to kill him, literally trying to kill him. Harley Renee Richmond doesn't stop to think when she's hitting Dallas Richmond that he is scared. He don't like being hit. When she throws something at him that could fucking kill him, she doesn't care. When she throws a hard metal object and she misses his head narrowly, that's literally attempted murder that she committed. But he's a guy. Nearly every guy I know in a relationship has got battered wives syndrome. She's allowed to do whatever she wants to him. He's not allowed to turn her in. He's not allowed to tell on her. He's not allowed to say anything. He has to worry about being ostracized. Oh, you were beaten up by a girl, or oh, you hit a girl. You're a woman beater. He's got to worry about the fact that even though he's the one being harmed and it is his house, the majority of the time they're going to take the man. It's the man's fault. According to Nebraska law, they have to arrest both of them and charge them with mutual assault. Well, you get special rights in the case of domestic violence. They were broken up, but they had kids together. Harley had her own place, and Dallas had his own place, and he was helping to cover Harley's rent. He was complaining to me that he didn't have enough money to cover his bills because he's covering Harley's. You goddamn right I contributed. Not because I liked Harley, not because I agreed with Harley. I did like Harley. I didn't agree with her. She says, oh, you have no idea about me and Dallas and our relationship and how it was before. You have no right to judge, and so on and so forth. No, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm in a volatile environment. It's bad enough that I have to deal with you two alcoholics. It's even worse that you two have kids together. What chance do those kids have with parents like that? Well, they're intelligent kids. They're pretty well adjusted. They're used to it. The alcoholics they have for parents are still quasi-functional. And where they lack in function, their family helps to pick up the tab. And so did I, of course. But I didn't consider it being taken advantage of because I needed a place for me and my stuff. I had to understand his trauma, which you're not going to understand mine. I'm in a subservient environment, so if I don't do what you want right when you want, then I'm somehow a horrible person. If I don't have the means to cover my Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I am in constant fear of the roof over my head being lost. And of course, nobody tries to understand that I need peace and quiet to make my phone calls. I need peace and quiet so I can explain what's going on. I need peace and quiet so I can even think when in a state of crisis. I did make a lot of complaints about 988 very, very loudly and very, very publicly. Don't be pushing people to commit suicide. When an autistic person is in a state of crisis and they have no friends or family member who have ever tried to understand them, too busy capitalizing on the fact that I do have speech problems. When I'm scared, I'm being ganged up on and I'm overwhelmed and I'm not allowed to speak. I already know how that works. Every one of you knows how that feels. Every one of you knows how it feels to be talked over when it's important. But the other thing that you don't get is that just because it's your opinion doesn't mean it's more important. When you're being victimized and you go to your friends and they're not listening to you, when your friends come to you for help, you don't listen to them, and your excuse is that nobody listened to you when it happened to you. That's not we the people, that's just plain selfishness. When you're trying to sell a narrative that this happens to black people more than anybody else, you're selling a false narrative. When you try to claim that it's happening to white people or any other race for that matter, you're selling a false narrative. Yeah, sure. The majority of the black people killed by the police every year are homeless. The majority of white people killed by the police every year are homeless. The majority of Christians killed by police every year are homeless. The Muslims killed by police every year, primarily homeless. A lot of their demographics don't even come out. The media doesn't say a black homeless man or a homeless Muslim or a homeless bricklayer or a homeless carpenter. The people who built our infrastructure in America, whose labor creates all of this pretty stuff for you to see. It's a war on the poor. But the majority of your demographics, on the police completely ignore the homeless, the most victimized people in the country, bar none, except children. When you grow up in the system, it's because you're a child and you have no fucking rights. When you're dropped off with nothing at 18, you still have no fucking rights because now you're homeless. You have no money to get started on. You have no vehicle to get started on. You have no cosigner. You have no ID. You have no birth certificate. You have no social security card. What the fuck, Chuck? And then you tell them they wanted it. And the first thing that happens to them, their first infraction as an adult, is usually urban camping. That's right. First week out of homeless. You just got out of the system, no ID, and there you are, you're sitting on the Pearl Street Mall. Cops come through and do their homeless sweeps, and they want to see your ID. You don't have one. You explain that you're 18, you just got out of the system. You haven't gotten one yet, and you don't know how to because all these different places, this cop doesn't want to hear it. He doesn't give two shits. You better produce your ID, and he's going to get an attitude. He'll arrest you for getting an attitude. You don't have any ID. So then they can't release you from the jail unless they give you a jail ID. And they tell you that jail ID with your birth certificate and your social security card should be enough for you to get an ID down at the local DMV. It's not, because you don't have those other two documents. The thing is, though, that's not usually your first infraction. Your first infraction, somebody was kind enough to give you a blanket, and you wrap up with it, and you curl up underneath the bush, and you hope you don't freeze to death. You wake up in the morning with a police officer shining a flashlight in your face. That's going to cost you $120 for the camping in city limits. It's going to cost you $200 and something for the trespassing on public property. It's also going to cost you 20 hours of community service for the camping, 40 hours of community service for the trespassing. Plus, people look at your record and they go, oh, trespassing. He must be a thief. He must be a vandal. No, he's a human being with a basic human need to fucking sleep. And what the hell is it with charging these guys, these college kids who come down and beat us up, steal our things, or put stuff in our food that's disgusting? I'm trying to remember what it was that was in the food that made us all sick. It was like, not E. coli, but it was like an E. coli outbreak. It was basically that somebody had literally put shit in our food. Thought it was fucking hilarious. Hey man, I got a great idea. Let's pull a Van Wilder, but since I'm not going to jack off my dog, let's just put some shit in the food. They go, oh, well, you can smell shit. You can smell shit in the food. That depends on how they do it. And you go, oh, well, maybe it was someone who was uncleanly. No, the doctor explained to one of them homeless folks, well, that's basically from somebody mishandling food and then leaving it out all night and then giving it to you. Like, that stuff needs to be on something in order to breed. It needs to be on specific stuff. If it hits certain stuff, it's just gonna kill the stuff that's in it. I mean, it's a bunch of shit. I don't know. I don't have a degree in microbiology. but it's basically the same thing as getting E. coli. And it's disgusting that people would do that they would intentionally do that. We're not just at war with the government, we're at war with the American people, because the American people are told to hate us. They're trained to hate us. They're taught that we are the evils of the world. No, we're the victims of America. We are the survivors. Most of you, if you lost everything you had today, the first thing you would reach for is suicide. Some of you might get lucky and run into somebody like me who's going to show you the ropes, show you where things are so that you don't get lost immediately, or run into someone like Alaska Donald McNeese. You don't want to run into him. If I told you before I do, he'll do bad things with you and to you. You might run into Emery or Arturo first. While we're in a basic state of survival, trying to take care of our basic needs is inhibited as well by the fact that most of the people in our immediate surroundings that any of these resources were sent to are people in just as desperate situations as we. And even though some of them do seem to be, well, I'm going to have to say high and mighty, even though they seem to be kind and they seem to be a team worker and a team player, when they get their opportunity to rip you off because they want to see their family and they miss them, and your $800 in cash that you pulled out of your disability because it's a cash and carry society and you've got to pay $680 of that in bills today to go pay for services and fines because you got busted sleeping. Yeah, they're going to take that, they're going to steal it and go home to Memphis, Tennessee and see their kids. Or they're going to go to Phoenix, Arizona and see their parents. Or Bozeman, Montana to see their parents. Actually, that girl went to Helena. And you never see them again. And of course, there's the street names. Everybody knows who Monkey is. Every cop in Boulder for years and years knew the name Michael Pennington, aka Monkey. Officer Keith Steinman used to run around to all of the homeless people and tell them that Monkey was narking on him. Monkey told him this and Monkey told him that. But then when you say, hey, Monkey said, well, I don't know who this Monkey is. You really want me to go looking for a guy named, let me get this straight, Monkey? You know Monkey. But you guys in houses, you don't care about this. You don't care about the fact that police officers will develop a personal bond with a homeless person. I don't mean a personal bond as in we're friends. I mean mutual hatred for one another. Michael Pennington has every right to hate Officer Keith Steinman. We're kept low by your victimization. You victimize us because of your assumptions. And the police victimize us more than anyone else. You see how our rights are violated with me. How they talk over the victim, redirect, and send you 1,000,001 different places that all tell you it's not their job. If you don't have a friend or family member, they don't give a fuck what the law says. They're not going to follow it. Their excuses are everything from, oh, well, I have an overwhelming caseload, to, you don't have any rights. Is this your house? Am I coming to your house and breaking into your house? What are you trying to insinuate there? That I'm breaking into houses? Mm-mm. Before Natalie died, I was blown off because I was a homeless man. When I finally got into housing, people thought, oh, he's in housing, everything's fixed. No, it wasn't fixed. That housing, I was still in Chapel, Nebraska, socially isolated from any and all of my friends. I didn't have any friends in Chapel, Nebraska. I never had friends in Chapel, Nebraska. They showed me that no matter what people did to me, they were always going to blame me. It must be my fault. It must be. It must be. You send us to services that have mandated reporters that won't do their jobs. And in order to access those services from those mandated reporters, they've got other services that they provide. They'll let you have those other services, but they're not going to do a thing as a mandated reporter, even if you're harmed on that property. Church after church after church, I've recorded shit like this. You, the American public, you want it to be an easy fix from the U.S. government. No, 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 no. When you send us to them alone, ooh, free money. The American taxpayers will pay between $100,000 and $270,000 a year to keep a homeless person locked up as an inmate for a crime that they had to commit out of desperation and survival. When a person in a house is trying to kill you and you get lucky enough to get the upper hand, you're still going to prison. The guy who tried to murder you, he's got a family who is angry that he's dead and have no problems assuming that you're just a junkie and getting all of their friends who have resources involved in paying hell upon you. While the police will refuse to look at evidence or allow you a place to sit down with the evidence and do what it is that you have a legal right to do, the police will outright ignore you, lie to you, send you to somewhere else, redirect you, misinform you, but they will help out your predator with all of those things that they told you they couldn't do. They will help your predator do the, oh, poor me, I'm a victim thing. Poor Leslie Snell, she's a dumb whore. Her husband and her husband's brother were both involved in threatening my life after Natalie was killed. The thing is that Clint Snell used his brother to threaten my life instead of doing so directly. I've got recordings with his older brother, well, I don't know which one's older and which one's younger, but I do know that Clint Snell Predator Services, his card is on my channel. It's the screenshot for one of them. CARLSNELL. We speak about several of the situations that the police wouldn't investigate. Y'all are screwed for a reason. As long as you're fighting for special rights, you're going to get resistance from the other victims because they're not being heard. Only your group matters. I'd be willing to work with both BLM and the KKK if they could stop blaming each other for being ripped off. We're all being ripped off by the same assholes. Poor people are America's toilet. Then, of course, our predators can do whatever the hell they want. And any little thing that is not perfectly kissing their ass, they pretend that they're a fucking victim. No, fuck all of you. You think I want to be stuck out here with the junkies? being sent to services that are full of junkies, and of course professionals that don't want to do their jobs. They just want to treat you like you're a fucking junkie and throw you out the door, after making sure they get your information so they can build the United States government. Then they want to put you on pharmaceuticals. Do pills take care of food, water, and shelter? No, the fuck they don't. Does therapy take care of food, water, and shelter? No, it don't. They send us around and round and round and round. The whole time telling us we deserve it. The whole time lying to us about their jobs as mandated reporters. The whole time redirecting things. Changing the laws, changing the rules depending on who they're talking to, knowing outright that they're lying to us. My entire life, people took advantage of me because they could. The term mentally ill. My mom used to try winning arguments by calling me mentally ill. When she got older, well, then she started shitting her pants when she'd lose an argument. You know I have IBS. You made me shit my pants. All right, Angela. You get to see how instead of people listening to us, they're busy insinuating and telling us what to think and what to feel and talking to us as if they know everything about our lives better than we do. Fuck you. The American people aren't American people right now. It's not about we, it's about what crap can you scrounge up as straps for you and yours, you and yours. We're Americans. You and yours includes the poor. You and yours includes the homeless. When you want to fight for black rights, realize there are black people who are homeless on the streets. Such a small portion of the population, or so you think. How many times the only difference between you being homeless with nothing and you get to keep your shit is that little bit of help that you want to pretend you did it all yourself, don't you? It's a matter of pride. You don't want to admit that mommy and daddy helped you out. Man, most people's mommies and daddies help them out, dumbass. And the better off you are, the more likely they are to help. Now y'all are being treated like you're homeless. The police will not do their jobs, and none of these programs that we wanted to say defund the police, right? That's a great idea. But the idea wasn't that the police get to do absolutely nothing and we waste all of our money on therapy. How much money is being wasted on therapy? On these therapists to fleece the American taxpayer dollars nationwide. Therapists don't do shit. They're fucking useless. You go spend all that money to fucking whine at a therapist because you don't have a real friend. A real friend who actually cares about you and cares to listen. I had one friend like that. Her name was Natalie Bollinger. She got her brains blown out. Congratulations, fuckheads. Congratulations, therapists and police officers, for fleecing the American public for money instead of protecting Sean Schwartz and Natalie Bollinger from predators like Tim Beeson, Ted Bollinger, Brian Schwartz, Angela Wade, Rose M. Kelly. Danica Garner, Rochelle Shelley Campbell, Troy Bollinger. Everywhere I ever was, there was always some asshole to make it hell. Any progress that I was able to make with Brenda Dickinson, Dennis Dickinson would come home being a fucking asshole and a piece of shit and make everybody fucking feel bad. Make everybody feel like shit for fucking existing. Dennis Dickinson is a world-class asshole. But he's not a world-class piece of shit. He's just stupid and selfish. And that's a deadly combo. How much progress did Brenda Dickinson make? A lot with all of us. And how much damage did Dennis Dickinson create by being a fucking piece of shit? Did Dennis Dickinson ever stop to consider the kids that he was fucking bitching at were the most fucked kids in the neighborhood? All of us kids that went to Brenda Dickinson's groups, went to her kids' groups, being molested and fucking beaten at home. Being forced to go to work to feed yourself and your siblings. I do mean forced, because hunger is a powerful thing. My mom's house, once I was old enough to be able to wipe my own ass, was far safer than it was when I was first taken from my mother over her drug addictions. By high school, I was pretty well able to take care of myself. I was just ignorant of the world because I didn't grow up in the world. I grew up in the system. It's different by a lot. We learn different things than you. We experience different things than you. And I had to worry about myself and my siblings being put in the system if I spoke up. It's easier to make sure your brothers and sister are okay when they're staying in the same town. Even if you don't go and talk to them and don't talk to mom, my little sister would help me sneak food into the house once in a while. She'd let me know when they needed something. Kind of like with Miss Jerry. While I was watching her kids, she was paying Lanny Ingline to watch the kids. She didn't. I was bringing over food every day, mostly food that I would eat because, well, we ate as a group. It's not like we ate as a family, but, you know, somebody sees that you're eating a bowl of cereal, they might want a bowl of cereal. But in all of these cases, I'm having to deal with women who are assuming that because I'm a man, I can do things that they can't. No, they can do those things, and they get those things because they work together. When it's a man, they tell him, you should go here and you should go there. I have a penis. If I go in alone, I don't get shit. Don't make me go in alone. And don't let Dennis Dickinson bully children. Is he a piece of shit or a selfish asshole? That's all a matter of opinion. So I called him both and said he's neither. Because it's a matter of opinion. What's not up for debate or a matter of opinion is the way that it makes me feel when he does that. That is not a debate. You do not get to tell me how to think and how to feel. Oh, well, you should think of it this way. You know what? Try telling that to a rape victim. What I'm going through is worse than rape. And multiple other rape victims who have been through this have said the same thing. People like Teresa Massilia. This is worse than rape. People like Christine Kelly. This is worse than rape. Then again, they have loved ones who stuck with them through all of it. I had to beg people for an entire year before Natalie was killed to listen. And that's the thing since then that I've had to do over and over, beg people to listen. I can't take care of my Maslow's hierarchy of needs no matter how much you victimize me. The homeless need to be armed, or the police need to be disarmed.